and a very warm welcome to LawWiser's Evolution series. And today we're really excited because we have with us none other than Sergius Barretto, who is the managing editor at Autocar India. Hi, Sergius, a very warm welcome to LawWiser.
Thanks, Lavanya. Thank you for having us part of your discussion. It's always a pleasure to talk cars with people who want to hear about it.
Yes, and we in fact don't know much, and we want to know a lot more about EV. And so thank you so much for joining us today and taking our time.
Sure.
I know a lot of people will be watching us, so I'm going to dive straight, down to the to the question. So, firstly, if you could tell us what you feel is the present consumer perception of EVs. You're so close to the space, so you would know. Like, for example, when we're thinking price points, some maintenance, charge, battery, their mileage, etc. Like all of that. For example, like me as a common consumer who is just beginning to start, thinking whether I should. Like I'm just at the beginning of that. Yeah. So like my perception personally is that EVs are expensive, or they're not really meant for long drives, etc. So what do you really feel is the perception?
Yeah, I think the public, or let's say the car buying on the bike buying public today are quite aware of electric vehicles, electric cars and bikes. There's a lot of awareness thanks to obviously there's a lot of press, a lot of discussion going on online, in the media, etc. Petrol and diesel prices have only been going higher and higher. We are at record highs. So obviously this has kind of brought EVs into the spotlight. So I would say yes, awareness is very good. There are of course doubts as with any new technology, we get a lot of queries as to should I buy it as my only car, or is it a good second car, or bikes, how far and how long can I ride, bits like that, queries with respect to its usage and finer aspects about an EV. But in general terms, I think the awareness is definitely there among the consumers or the car and bike buying public.
Yeah. So is it, so tell me something, Sergius, is it mostly, who is the consumer segment? Is it mostly people who are more conscious about sustainability or clean energy, etc., or is it a larger audience considering EVs for maybe some of the other factors that you mentioned, for example, hike in fuel prices? What really is the mix?
So, definitely people who are looking for sustainable, greener kind of mobility are obviously looking at EVs. But having said that, that's probably going, as we go forward, probably going to form like a minority, because EVs will form in time, will form the mainstream. If you look at average sort of car or bike user, I'm not talking about an enthusiast. There are enthusiasts who want gears to change and the sound of an engine and stuff like that, but just your everyday user of a car or a bike, what they want is a hassle-free sort of riding or driving experience. They don't want to hear any noises and vibrations. Automatics are in preference because of traffic conditions. Now all of this, an EV, an electric vehicle, has by its design, there is no gearbox, so it's automatic by default. There is no engine.
I got to know this only yesterday.
Yeah, exactly. So it's it's there by default. There's no gearbox. The engine sound, it's not burning petrol. There's no explosion of any fuel inside, as it were. It's just like your electric motor, like a ceiling overhead fan for that matter. So sound and vibration is also inherently lower. So I would say an EV actually for an everyday consumer is the better choice, if of course we are able to get the prices down, because that's really one concern, and really the major hurdle, the next being of course the charging infrastructure. But apart from these two, for everyday use, an EV is actually a very good solution.
And is it is it okay to drive? I'm just going to ask some basic questions for everyone who's watching.
Yes.
Is it comfortable to drive in crazy traffic,
Oh
you
yeah,
know, does it still?
absolutely, absolutely. In fact, in traffic is where EVs really shine for two reasons.
Okay,
One is like I was saying, and we just discussed. They are automatics. You don't have
automatic.
a
Yeah,
gearbox.
right.
The other benefit is when you're stationary at a traffic light, you're not thinking, my God, I'm burning so much of fuel. So much of
So
my
much
money is
fuel.
being wasted. So
Yeah,
of
yeah,
course you are using up your charge or the battery charge,
right.
but it's not as much and will not impact your wallet as much as just idling and burning fuel. So there too
Correct.
in traffic and EV makes good financial sense also.
And is it as so in terms of capacity, is it comfortable for people to sit at the back? Because
Yeah,
again,
it's an interesting question actually. EVs today, there are a lot of retrofitted or modified EVs. So, for example, they were petrol or diesel cars converted to
right,
batteries. Now, in that sense, the packaging, there are always some constraints and limitations because you already have that car design. But there are
correct,
a
correct.
newer range of EVs, and in fact, just yesterday or day before yesterday, rather, I happened to drive, which is the new Kia EV6, which is what we call born electric. So, from
Okay,
design itself, it's born to be electric powered. Now, over there, you have, of course, a lot of space for storage and very innovative packaging solutions. There's no engine
right.
in front. You can have a nice sort of boot in the front and the back. So there is a lot of space. The only one concern right now is, the battery pack. It sits below the flow. So the flow tends
Exactly.
to,
That's what. Yeah,
yeah, the flow
yeah,
tends to
yeah.
go
That's
higher. So you sit in a kind of knees up position. But there
oh,
are EVs
okay,
which, today they are working around that, adjusting the height, roof heights, adjusting the seating position, and sort
okay.
of managing that. And there are some which are doing a fairly good job. In fact, I mean, the Kia EV6 that I
Yeah,
spoke of, sorry, I mean, the Audi e-tron, let me correct myself there, the Audi e-tron, has a more natural kind of position compared to, let's say, the EV6. The
okay.
Tata Nexon, in fact, it's a good example.
Yeah, I've heard about that one a lot. I
Yeah,
don't know the features, but yeah, I heard a lot
yeah. So
about the
that
car.
one also, the regular range car, which has a smaller battery, has a very natural seating position, whereas the larger
Okay.
range, which has a sort of thicker battery pack, has a slightly knees up
Yeah,
position. Yeah.
yeah.
So that's, I think,
Okay.
the only kind of trade-off for now. I think very soon we will see even that kind of disappearing.
Yeah, yeah. I'm sure. I'm sure. All right. Thank you so much. So I'll move to my next question. Which is obviously all this is all interconnected. We've spoken about the consumer perception and of course a couple of the drawbacks, but coming down to maybe some of the specific concerns which consumers have, like a lot of people I've heard say is that maybe they're not going to purchase EVs right now, or maybe in the next 4 or 5 years, because and news doesn't help. There's been a lot in the news about
Right.
battery issues. Is India too hot as a country? Batteries are burning up, and then of course the fact that
Right.
batteries are not being manufactured in India, they're expensive,
Correct.
and they're imported from so some
True.
geopolitics
True.
involved there.
Yes.
So if my battery it stops working, is it going to be really expensive for me? So I mean, what, let's say, maybe are the top 4 5
Right.
concerns which consumers have, and if you could help also
Sure.
address they
Sure.
may whether they are correct in believing so, or
Right.
not, or yeah.
Yeah, no, absolutely. You're right. There are concerns. So I think, the number one being, let's say, the cost. Batteries are expensive to begin with. It sort of further compounds for us because we import batteries currently. Uh, so yeah, batteries I mean, EVs are expensive. That is a genuine concern. If you look at the retail price of either bikes or cars, either which way, they are costly. That's rapidly going to change. India is also looking at manufacturing battery cells, sort of in India. Maruti, so brands as well as component manufacturers. You know what I mean by car makers as well as component makers are both kind of investing in trying to sort of make batteries in India. So that should bring costs sort of down and more digestible. The other concern is, charging infrastructure. Now that's also, a genuine concern. And here I would say consumers, yes, would need to pay attention to that. I mean, if you have, for example, just one car in your household and you are looking at long distances, that would be a concern, because you're going to have to plan your stops out. It can be done, it's not impossible, but it's not with that carefree kind of attitude that we are so used to now with conventional fueled vehicles. So you'll have to keep that in
Yeah,
mind.
yeah. You can't just take your car and just like go off
Yes,
as and when,
exactly.
whenever. You need to plan a bit.
Exactly. You'll need to plan a bit.
Yeah.
That will also change in time. But for now, if you're making the switch right now, then just be sure that you can manage your day-to-day commutes or your outstation commutes, whatever you would typically do with your car. I mean, for example, me, I live about 50 kilometers away from work, which is quite a distance. So if I were to, let's say, come in on an electric scooter, some of them have a range of about 70 odd kilometers. Now I won't make it to work and back. I'm going to have
And
to
back.
charge at both ends,
Right.
right? So that's something I would need to factor in. Make sure that I
Yeah.
have charging at both ends. So yeah, that's the second concern. The third one, like you said, is in terms of the issue with the overheating and the fires. Yeah, that's definitely a genuine issue. I mean, you can't deny what we are seeing, and that's been happening to a lot of the two-wheelers. Now it's happening there honestly because in the two-wheeler space, it's kind of just mushroomed out with all sorts of people coming in. So like if you look at cars, for example, it's still Tata Motors, Hyundai, and established
Yeah.
car makers who are getting into the space. So they have certain quality control, they have knowledge and resources to sort of build and design and build them correctly. Unfortunately, with the
Right.
two-wheelers, a lot of people have just rushed in and or pretty obviously taking shortcuts, with respect to quality and stuff like that. Yes, there is also the consumer at fault in some cases, where they're using maybe a wrong charger or a faulty wall socket, things that can also, like your mobile phone. I mean, every mobile phone brand always tells you use the correct charger, and
Yeah, yeah.
same goes for an electric vehicle. So yeah, that is a genuine concern. I would say if you're looking to buy a two-wheeler, electric two-wheeler, buy from a reputed, proven brand. A brand that has proven itself in the EV space, or
Yeah.
at least in the in the two-wheeler space. So they know
Yeah,
what
yeah.
they're doing. You also then can have somebody who will be in business for a while. You can get back to for service, etc.
Right. Right, right.
And of course, make sure that you charge using the correct cables, your wall socket, the earthing, and all of that is all in tip-top shape.
So again, basic question, Sergius. How do I charge an EV vehicle? Are there specific charging stations, or can I charge
Right.
at home?
Both.
Yeah.
Both. No, so
Both.
both. Yeah, you can
Okay.
charge at home, which is actually one of the attractions also of an EV, in the sense that you'll never have to
Okay.
go to a fuel pump, and wait in line to fill
Okay.
up. Because while you're at
Okay.
home sleeping or while you're at work, your car is down charging. Or bike is down
Yeah.
charging, so you can charge at your office or location. It's basically a wall outlet that you can use. You can
Okay.
start with basically like a standard 15 amp wall outlet, which will be very slow, obviously. But then every
Yeah.
manufacturer also sells you a charger, a special charging box that sort of would be
Right.
installed at your premises, and you can then have faster speeds. Now, in case you are
Okay.
traveling, between certain points, and you happen to run
Yeah.
out of charge, you would have to use a public charger, right? So you can also charge at a public charger. So to answer your question, yes, you can charge an EV both at your home and at a public regular, like a fuel
Right.
pump kind of.
So how? I mean, I'm not very familiar. So I'm in Delhi, and I believe you're in Bombay. And I was
Right.
recently visiting. How common are EV charging points? Like if I'm
Okay.
traveling in the city,
Within,
I don't
yeah.
think I've noticed anything in Delhi
Yeah,
yet.
so
But
within, yeah, correct. So within the city, there are charging points. They are slowly mushrooming, coming up.
okay.
Again, they're not
Okay.
as obvious and not as frequent and big and whatever as fuel pumps.
Yeah, of course.
But
Yeah.
but the good thing is, a few fuel companies today are also trying to tie up with certain vendors and have electric charging facilities at a fuel pump also.
At fuel pumps.
Yeah, so
Okay.
if that
Okay.
happens soon, then at least you have that peace of mind to know that,
Yeah.
okay,
Yeah.
I'll charge at home, I'll charge at work, but while I'm roaming around, I can go to any fuel pump and I will be able to charge, my EV. So yeah, fuel companies like HPCL, for instance, BPCL, they're all sort of tying up and looking at adding electric charging facilities at their fuel stations too.
Okay. And this is mostly, these are private players, right? Who are,
The
looking at
current
infrastructure, or is
standalone,
it?
yeah, so the current standalone charging facilities are run by obviously not the fuel companies right now. It's basically, so for example, Tata Power. They are big in EV charging, in the EV
Okay.
charging space,
Okay.
and then you have a lot of other companies slowly setting up.
All
Startups
right.
also getting into it. So yeah, it's non-fuel companies that are the
Got
traditional
it.
fuel companies that are
Got
right
it.
now heavily active. But that, like I said, will also change.
Change. Yeah. 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 I'm sure. Okay. So, my next question is, actually, we discussed a lot of this, but if I were to make it simple, let's say if somebody is considering buying an EV right now, let's say they've decided that they want to buy an
Right.
EV, they want to purchase it. And what's, let's say, a checklist of top 4 to 5 factors that they should consider? Some of
Okay.
them you covered, but like, just so
Right.
that I sort of know that, okay, I've
Right.
inquired about this,
Correct. Correct.
and
Right.
and then I can decide. Yeah.
So I think that the first thing is to establish a budget, because unfortunately today there's not much of a choice in EVs. So you have, maybe one or two cars at, let's say, a 10 to 20 lakh mark, maybe another two
Yeah.
only at the 22 to, well,
So
30,
is that the
35.
start? Is that the starting range for EVs? About 10,
For
12
a
lakhs?
for a four-wheeler, yes.
Okay.
You would look at, let's say, something like the Tata Tigor, which would be upward of 10 lakh,
Okay.
depending on the
Okay.
trim. Or Tata Nexon, which is actually the most popular EV today, starts at somewhere around. I think they have two range options. So the regular one starts at somewhere around 14 or 15 lakh, and it goes up to about close to 20, just shy of 20 lakh is what the
So
Nexon is.
14, 15 lakhs. What's the range for that car?
So see, the claimed ranges are always higher, but we test them at Autocar, and I think for us we got a 208-kilometer range on the regular car, which is
Okay.
not bad, because if you're using it, like I said, as a second car, your everyday running isn't going to exceed 150 odd kilometers, going to
Right.
the office
Right.
and back, or to the mall, shopping, wedding, etc. So it isn't too
Right.
bad at all. So it makes very good sense for an everyday car. So that's what you need to, which is your second thing after you establish your budget. Establish what's your use case.
Got it. Yeah.
You're looking at just a city car. You can look at, so for example, a lower range option. Right. If you are planning, longer distances, you're going to regularly do intercity maybe trips, or you're on the weekends you
Yeah.
want to go out, then you're going to have to look at the higher range option. So that's the second thing you need to check, which is basically what's my usage, what's my use case.
Right.
Same with the two-wheelers. You establish a budget and you establish your use case. But in the case of the two-wheelers, I would add another checklist is to just look at the brand. There are too many.
Yeah, you mentioned that, right?
Yeah, there's just too many brands. I mean, honestly, we were just doing a random count, and I think we crossed over 80 or 90 brands that are selling electric two-wheelers.
Wow.
Yeah, now most of them are just honestly not even manufacturers; they are just traders. So they are
Right.
importing these kind of Chinese-built scooters and selling them here. So
Yeah.
obviously, I would say, that should be for two-wheelers another checklist. Saying, is this a sort of established brand, a brand that you can trust?
Right.
Because it is a concern as we've seen and we know. And then the fourth thing is your charging facility. That you need to sort of also tick mark. Do you have a charging sort of point at home? Because you can't go to a public charger all the time, because it
Course,
takes
yeah.
time. See, unlike a petrol car or a diesel car, which fills up in a matter of minutes,
Yeah.
even on the fast chargers, something like a Nexon, for example, it can say, I think we tried charging it at a 30 kilowatt charger, which is fairly fast. It would still take 2 or 3 hours, probably,
Okay.
yeah. And your regular wall outlets, which, the box that you get with your car,
Yeah.
is
Yeah.
about a 7 or an 8 hour, so like an overnight kind of charging.
Overnight. Okay.
Yeah. So
Okay.
you need to
Okay.
make sure that you have charging facilities at home. Now, a lot of people who park on the road, for instance, right? How will you
Yeah.
charge your car? So that's
Yes.
something you need to factor in.
True story. Delhi is, yeah, a big
Yeah.
problem. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's
Yeah. Yeah.
something you need to factor in. Even living in a society, a multi-story society, will you get your
Yeah.
permission to charge your vehicle? Because you need to obviously wire it to your meter box, for
Right.
example. So that's the next
Right.
thing on your checklist. Can you charge your EV? Because going to a public charger every time isn't really going to be time
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I guess that's just
effective.
for emergencies, right? Because
Yes, a
I
public
mean,
charger is
if it's
best used for, just in between and topping
just,
up maybe to kind of extend your range.
yeah.
But the bulk of your charging should ideally be done at home or at work, one of the two places.
Yeah.
So I
Yeah.
think
Yeah.
that would round up, the four things that you should look at maybe, just the budget, your use case scenario for two-wheelers, the brand specifically that you're buying from, and your charging facility. Do you have charging
Yeah.
facility at home?
Yeah, actually, yeah, those are some very important things to consider. Like even electricity at the moment, like Delhi's been having power cuts,
Okay,
so
that's
many
that's
power
point number
cuts.
five. Yes,
Yeah,
that's
in the
true.
summer. So I'm thinking, how would we even, charge the car if it
No,
needs
you're
every?
right. You're right. In fact, that's point number five. And honestly, I would say we're lucky. We're living in Mumbai. We don't have this thing called power cuts.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, it's
Okay. I,
it's just extremely extremely rare. Uh, Computers, houses, we don't have power backups. I know in Delhi you have to have an inverter
yes,
or
yes,
some form of
absolutely.
backup, but houses in
Yeah, yeah,
Mumbai
we
just
do.
don't have that. Uh, you know.
Yeah, so actually Delhi, the electricity problem has obviously gotten much better over the years, but
Right.
this year now, I mean, has
Yeah,
been
the
pretty
heat.
bad.
Yes, correct, correct. So
Yeah,
that's, yeah, that's
so
that's point number
that's
five.
number
Do you live
five.
in an area with uninterrupted or stable power
Yeah,
supply? I would say, yeah,
right.
thank you. Is point number five.
Okay, all right, cool. Thank you so much. That was really helpful. I have maybe just one or two other questions for you.
Sure.
Um, you already mentioned some of the cars, the brands, etc. But let's say in the next 2 years, which are the most awaited EV cars and bikes, of course,
Right.
that are going to be launched or have just been launched?
Just launched. Yeah. So,
Yeah.
I think let's start with the bikes. So, for example, initially when electric two-wheelers started, it was all the newer and sort of relatively unknown brands, maybe. Uh, but today, the legacy players like TVS, Bajaj, they are getting into the EV space. Bajaj and TVS both recently launched their electric scooters, and there will be more to come.
Right.
So there, that's something that you can look forward to in the two-wheeler space. You will get sort of a wider choice from established brands, very soon. In the four-wheeler space, also we have, of course, our market leader, which is Maruti Suzuki,
Hmm.
kind of staying away from EVs for now, but they will get into EVs by about 2025. So they are some time away. But in the immediate
Yeah.
kind of future, you've got Tata Motors who will expand their EV portfolio. In fact, they've already got the Tigor, they've already got the Nexon. They're going to have every year at least one EV launching. So, you'll have
Okay.
another EV next year, you'll have another EV after that. So that's something to look forward to. Uh, MG have also said that they will have an affordable EV. So right now their EV starts at around, the 20 plus lakh, 22 lakh mark. They are claiming that they're going to have an EV starting from somewhere around the 10 lakh odd mark. So that's
Right.
something to look forward, and that will also happen very soon. You've also got Hyundai, who have the Kona right now, which is an EV that they launched about a year and a half or two ago. But
Okay.
they too have sort of announced plans to have more EVs, both at the higher end. So you'll have like a flagship somewhere around the 50 lakh mark, but also at the lower end, again at the 10 plus kind of mark, is where they will have. So Hyundai are also another brand to look out for. Mahindra are, they're still sort of, I would say, behind in terms of the EV race, having started early with the Reva. They kind of lost that lead
Yeah.
there. But they're going to come back also with a bang, and in the next 2 or 3 years, they will also have multiple products in their portfolio. So for now,
Okay.
it's certainly the immediate future. I would say it's Tata, because they've really got the ball.
Yeah.
And you can look forward to more from them as well.
Okay. Yeah, and I guess as a brand, it has that comfort of, it has that trust and credibility.
Yes,
Tata
yeah,
as a
it is
brand.
made in India
So,
also, and yeah, absolutely.
yeah. So just wanted to ask you, how long can you run EV cars in a good condition? Just again a basic question, but
So
something
no,
that just struck me.
yeah, that's a very fair question, because battery life does dip with age, and
Yeah. So,
that will happen to an EV also. So most manufacturers are giving you also now battery warranties. So for example, if you just take Tata Motors, they are warranting the battery also for about 8 odd years, which is a very good
acha.
time.
Yeah.
So they say that in an 8-year period, the battery, the capacity of the battery will not deteriorate by more than I think 30%, if I'm not mistaken. So basically what they say is that you even after a couple of years, 5 to 7 to 8 or whatever years, your battery should still be able to hold 70% of its original state of charge.
Okay.
So that's
Okay.
so that's something that is there. But yes, right now we don't know how the resale value will play out in the EV space.
Correct. Yeah.
Because coming up close, especially when coming close to the point when you will have to change a battery, that's going to be a massive cost, right? So what would be the value of
Correct.
EV, and how will consumers adapt to and react to that, sort of remains to be seen. Yeah.
But generally maintenance is low, right? For EV
Oh
cars,
yes.
like for our
Yeah,
own cars,
absolutely.
like once in 3 months, I have to get a servicing done. A lot of
Yeah,
other, kind
yeah.
of
Your
maintenance.
for example, you do have to send it for an inspection, once a year. But
Okay.
the points that they change, the items that are changed or replaced aren't that many. In your diesel or petrol car, you will have, of course, the engine oil. You'll have the engine oil
Yeah.
filter. You'll have a fuel filter. A lot of elements are there now. All of those elements are absent in an EV. The
Right.
engine oil. There's no engine oil filter, fuel filters. So it's I would say a lot simpler, and therefore more affordable as well, assuming the brand isn't charging you too much
Right.
for other things. So
Yeah. Okay. So I was going to say that states have launched various incentives,
right.
for purchase of EVs, etc. But are they doing enough, or is there enough happening about awareness, or are private players doing a lot about awareness? Because that seems still to be,
Sure.
not an issue, but I mean, there's still so much to be done. So policy, like purchase incentives are great, but is
Right.
there also need to create more awareness, and how can that be created actually?
Yeah.
I mean,
So I think yes, awareness needs to be furthered. Like I was saying earlier, there is a awareness of EVs in general, among the car or bike buying public.
yeah.
But yeah, it needs to be furthered and deepened. There are still a lot of concerns about usage and things like that. The government, let's start with institutions like the governments. They are doing their bit, in terms of pushing EVs. They're subsidizing EVs as well. Almost all states have waived the
Yeah.
road tax and registration and things like that.
Right.
So yeah, they are doing their bit. Manufacturers, they are doing their bit to an extent. Those who have EVs to offer.
Yeah.
But yeah, more can be done. For instance, I mean, we had an Autocar masterclass, on EVs,
Really?
where it
Yeah.
was open to
Okay.
a club, to all the club members, who came in and had a
Okay.
session with us and just interacted with us. And we also had every EV on sale present there, so they could look, touch, feel,
Okay.
talk to the brands. And yeah, there were a lot of questions, like, will my society allow a charger to be installed?
Mm,
Bits like that. So these points
yeah.
need awareness, and I think yeah, more needs to be done in that area. General awareness of an EV, I think, is good, and it's increasing. But I think the nuances of owning one, is where.
Correct. Yeah, when you actually get down to it and actually decide I'm going to purchase it, then then those specific questions,
Correct.
come up.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
So definitely more needs to be done there. In terms of educating the
Got it.
public. I would like to think we are doing that also, because at Autocar, I think every, I think, second month we have some EV on the cover somehow, because there is so much
Yeah.
talk of EVs. We've done EV specials. We've done bits on how to charge, or range tests and things like that. So hopefully we are doing our bit. But yeah. I think more is always welcome.
All right. Okay. Thank you. Thank you so much. Really had a really interesting conversation, Sergius. Thank you so much for joining us. And we really hope to see you back on LawWiser again.